The moment you start seeing clearly, people stop feeling comfortable around you. Here's the part nobody warns you about. Awareness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with dramatic music or a certificate. It slips in quietly, and then one day you realize you're no longer confused by things that once drained you. That's when the room changes. That's when people start watching you a little too closely, laughing a little too nervously, and asking themselves how on earth you caught on without being told. There's an uncomfortable fact most people avoid. Studies in psychology show that the average person spends more energy defending their existing beliefs than examining whether those beliefs are true. It's not because they're unintelligent. It's because certainty feels safer than clarity. You, however, didn't stop at comfort. You followed the pattern all the way to the source, and that's what made you dangerous in the most unexpected way. You stopped being programmable. What really throws them off is that you didn't figure this out through privilege, guidance, or some secret advantage. You figured it out by paying attention. While others were busy explaining away red flags, you noticed repetition. While people were negotiating with their intuition, you trusted yours. And now they're left standing there, replaying old conversations in their heads, wondering when exactly you stopped being naive and started seeing through the whole setup. There's also a strange irony here that's almost funny if you step back and look at it. The same people who once underestimated you are now low-key studying you. Not openly, of course. It's more subtle than that. The sudden curiosity, the awkward jokes, the half-serious comments that start with, "You're different now," as if that change happened overnight and not after years of silent observation. You didn't change overnight. You just stopped pretending you didn't notice. This is where the awe comes in, because when someone figures things out without being coached, controlled, or conditioned, it forces everyone else to confront an uncomfortable possibility. Maybe the system they trusted wasn't as solid as they thought, and maybe the person they overlooked wasn't lost at all, just quietly learning the rules while everyone else was busy playing the game. Number 1. You saw the pattern before you understood the language for it. Long before you could explain anything clearly, you noticed. You noticed how the same type of person always reacted the same way when challenged. You noticed how promises followed a script, how apologies came late and empty, how certain smiles never reached the eyes. You didn't have fancy words for it back then. You just felt that something wasn't adding up. While others brushed things off or made excuses, you quietly stored the information. What separates you is that you didn't ignore repetition. Most people need to be burned 10 times before they admit the fire is hot. You only needed to see the flame behave the same way twice. You started connecting dots without trying to sound smart about it. No announcing, no confronting, just observing. That's how real understanding forms, not through talk, but through consistency. You also didn't rush to label what you were seeing. That's another mistake people make. They hear a word, slap it onto a situation, and think they've mastered it. You did the opposite. You watched long enough for the truth to expose itself. You noticed who changed their tone when they couldn't control you. You noticed who supported you only when it benefited them. You noticed how certain situations always ended the same way, no matter who was involved. This is why people are stunned now. They assumed you were clueless because you weren't loud. They thought silence meant confusion, when in reality it meant processing. You were learning the rules by watching the players, not by listening to their explanations. That's a level of awareness most people never develop, because it requires patience and emotional discipline. By the time the language finally caught up, the terms, the concepts, the explanations, you didn't feel shocked. You felt validated. You weren't discovering anything new. You were finally finding words for something you had already lived through and understood deeply. That's the part that rattles people. You didn't borrow insight. You earned it through attention. And now when they look at you, they're not just confused by what you know. They're disturbed by how early you knew it and how quietly you kept going until the truth could no longer hide. Number 2, you stopped confusing familiarity with truth. For a long time, you were surrounded by things that felt normal but never felt right. Certain behaviors, certain dynamics, certain expectations were so common that nobody questioned them. They were passed down, repeated, defended, and protected simply because that's how it's always been. Most people mistake that repetition for truth. You didn't. You felt the quiet discomfort and chose not to ignore it. What makes this rare is that familiarity is powerful. It feels safe, even when it's damaging. It convinces people to tolerate disrespect, dysfunction, and emotional imbalance because at least it's predictable. You notice that predictability doesn't equal honesty. Just because something shows up every day doesn't mean it deserves a permanent place in your life. That realization alone took courage most people never access. You also realized that calling something out doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like withdrawal. Sometimes it looks like you no longer laughing at the same jokes or agreeing just to keep the peace. While others kept participating out of habit, you paused. You questioned. You watched how people reacted when you didn't automatically fall back into your old role. That reaction told you everything. This is where people start to feel unsettled by you. When someone steps away from what's familiar, it forces everyone else to face why they're still there. Your choice made others uncomfortable because it exposed how much of their lives were built on routine rather than intention. You weren't rebelling. You were choosing honesty over comfort, and that's a move most people aren't ready to make. You didn't need a dramatic breakdown to walk away from certain beliefs or connections. You simply stopped lying to yourself. You acknowledged that something being common didn't make it healthy, and something being accepted didn't make it right. Once that clicked, you couldn't unsee it. That's why they're still trying to figure you out. You didn't escape because someone rescued you. You escaped because you recognized that what felt normal was quietly costing you your clarity. And once you stop confusing familiarity with truth, you stop living on autopilot. And people who rely on autopilot no longer know how to reach you. Number 3. You noticed that people react to your growth before they react to your words. Growth isn't always loud. Often it's quiet, slow, almost invisible to anyone not paying attention. But you noticed it. You noticed the subtle shifts in how people treated you, how they spoke to you, and even how they positioned themselves around you. While most people measure influence by what is said, you measured it by what was felt. People respond first to presence, to energy, to subtle authority, long before a single word confirms anything. That's a level of perception that makes others uneasy because it exposes truths they'd rather ignore. The moment you started changing, some people became oddly cautious. Their jokes shifted tone. Their criticisms came out sharper. Their support felt selective. You didn't need to explain your boundaries, your choices, or your vision. The reactions were immediate, almost instinctive, because energy communicates faster than language. This is why they wonder how you figured it out before anyone else even noticed there was a game to play. What sets you apart is that you didn't rely on recognition to validate your growth. You didn't wait for applause or permission. You trusted the subtle confirmations that came from observing reactions, the slight hesitations, the micro-expressions, the adjustments in tone. Most people get lost in explaining themselves or defending progress, but you learned that growth itself is evidence. And evidence, when displayed quietly, terrifies those who think control comes from words alone. This awareness also gave you leverage. You saw that influence isn't just in what you say, but in what you embody. While others spoke loudly and hoped for impact, you moved silently, and people felt it. Their admiration, envy, or even discomfort arrived long before any conversation happened, because transformation is a signal too strong to ignore. By noticing reactions before explanations, you became untouchable in ways people can't articulate. They try to pin down your methods, question your timing, or rationalize your insight, but they can't. You're already ahead because you understand something fundamental that almost nobody does. People respond to your evolution before they understand it, and that silent authority cannot be faked. Number 4. You realized early that guilt is a control system, not a moral compass. You saw it long before anyone tried to label it. Guilt wasn't just an emotion, it was a tool used to bend behavior, to shape decisions, and to keep people small without them realizing it. Most people live their entire lives under its weight, thinking it's a sign of morality or conscience. You didn't. You saw the patterns. You noticed how certain people leveraged shame to get what they wanted, whether it was compliance, loyalty, or silence. That awareness changed everything. You understood that guilt is rarely about right or wrong. It's about leverage. Someone says, "You should feel bad," and suddenly your energy is being redirected. Your time, your choices, your attention, all subtly hijacked. While others internalized it, letting it shape their self-worth, you separated the feeling from the agenda behind it. That's a distinction most people never make. Most people confuse the hand that points with the path itself. You didn't. The power of this realization is massive. Once you stopped letting guilt dictate your actions, you became unpredictable. People could no longer control you with threats, sighs, or passive-aggressive comments. They tried, of course, but the moment you recognized guilt as a manipulation tactic, rather than a reflection of your value, their words lost weight. They were shouting into a vacuum. And that's when awe and confusion start to mix in the eyes of others, because they expected you to bend, to apologize, to justify yourself, and you didn't. You also noticed the subtle difference between responsibility and guilt. Responsibility is conscious, deliberate, and self-determined. Guilt is imposed, vague, and tied to someone else's agenda. By acting from responsibility and ignoring guilt, you reclaimed freedom in ways people around you never imagined. This understanding isn't just smart, it's revolutionary. People who depend on guilt to maintain control can't anticipate someone who recognizes the system and refuses to play. And that's why they're left wondering, sometimes bitterly, how you could navigate life with such clarity while they remain tangled in invisible chains. You didn't just see through it, you walked past it entirely. Number 5. You understood that being misunderstood was safer than being explained. At some point, you stopped trying to make everyone understand you. Not because you didn't care, but because you realized the cost of explanation often outweighed the benefit. When people don't understand you, they fill in the blanks with assumptions, and assumptions can be manipulated. Once you tried to clarify, to defend, to justify, and noticed that every explanation opened a door for criticism, judgment, or control. That's when you learned a quiet, powerful truth. Sometimes it's safer to let people think what they want than to try to correct them. Most people never reach this level of awareness. They confuse silence with weakness or misunderstanding with failure. You didn't. You saw how trying to explain yourself made you vulnerable to agendas you didn't sign up for. People would take your words, twist them, or store them as future ammunition. Your insight was dangerous to them, but their discomfort was also revealing. By stepping back and letting misperceptions exist, you gained a kind of untouchable authority. Misunderstanding became your shield, not a problem to fix. There's also a subtle art to this. You didn't let people's assumptions dictate your behavior. You acted according to your knowledge, your values, and your vision, even if it meant being misread. That's when the real shift happens. People realize they can't control your narrative, and suddenly every attempt to influence you feels futile. Their confusion is proof of your clarity, even if it isn't recognized. Being misunderstood also gave you the power to observe. You could see who truly cared, who was genuinely curious, and who was simply looking for leverage. Reactions became a mirror. You learned more about people from their interpretations than from their words. By choosing to let misunderstanding exist, you essentially forced others to confront their own biases, expectations, and insecurities. And that's why they're constantly in awe of you. You aren't just living your truth, you're operating on a level where perception bends around your presence, and trying to correct it only proves their own limitations. You became untouchable, not by confrontation, but by choosing your battles with an almost surgical precision. Number 6. You noticed who benefited from you doubting yourself. At some point, you stopped blindly questioning your own worth and started asking a different question: who gains when you hesitate? That simple shift changed everything. You realized that self-doubt wasn't always an internal problem. Often, it was being quietly engineered by others. Every subtle comment meant to make you second-guess. Every disguised warning, every manipulation disguised as concern suddenly made sense. People around you weren't just neutral participants in your life. Some were actively profiting from your uncertainty. Most people never see this. They think doubt is personal, something to overcome alone. You didn't fall into that trap. You observed patterns. You noticed who stepped in when you faltered, who leaned back and watched silently, and who subtly thrived when you questioned your own instincts. That awareness alone rewired the way you moved in the world. You stopped giving the benefit of the doubt to those who had no intention of giving you space to grow. You stopped giving energy to people whose comfort depended on your confusion. This insight also changed how you evaluated advice, criticism, and warnings. You stopped automatically treating input from others as objective truth. Instead, you measured it against motivation. You realized that some people weren't being cruel, exactly. They were strategic. They understood that uncertainty could be weaponized to control behavior, to maintain influence, to keep you from realizing your full power. Once you recognized that, the dynamic flipped. Suddenly you weren't just surviving manipulation. You were anticipating it, redirecting it, and refusing to play into it. That's why people are so unsettled by you now. They can't figure out how you stay so grounded, so decisive, and so untouchable. You're not immune to challenge. You're immune to exploitation. You learned to recognize where your doubt came from, and then you reclaimed the power that was always yours. Every moment of hesitation that others tried to trigger now fuels your clarity instead. You didn't just see the game. You understood the stakes, the players, and how to play without letting anyone control the board. Number 7. You clocked that respect changes when access changes. You learned early that respect isn't about words, gestures, or flattery. It's about boundaries. It's about how people treat you when they can no longer reach you on their terms. Most people misunderstand this because they equate attention with respect. They think if someone listens, praises, or acknowledges them, respect has been earned. You didn't. You saw the truth. The real measure of respect is how someone reacts when you stop being available, when you stop performing, when you stop bending to expectation. That's when the cracks appear, and that's when clarity hits. What makes this insight so rare is that access is the currency most people undervalue. Being constantly present, always answering, always explaining, always showing up. That's what creates the illusion of influence. You realize that when you reduce availability, even slightly, the dynamic changes instantly. Suddenly, people who were confident, casual, and dismissive become aware. Suddenly, requests, assumptions, and demands shift tone. Some get anxious. Some start testing limits. Some try to regain the access they once took for granted. That's the moment respect shows itself in its raw form. You also understood that this isn't about power trips or drama. It's about clarity and self-protection. When people are used to taking without giving, withdrawing access isn't punishment, it's observation. You watch how they respond, you measure their intent, and you recalibrate your engagement accordingly. That awareness separates those who are genuine from those who are only benefiting from your presence. This is why they're in awe of you now. They didn't realize how much they relied on your availability until it was limited. Their reactions reveal envy, discomfort, or even admiration, and it all happens without you having to say a word. You became untouchable not by confrontation, but by simply recognizing that respect is earned through boundaries, not proximity. Once access changes, so does everything else, and people notice immediately, often before they even understand what happened. Number 8. You saw that praise and punishment were often the same tool. At first, it doesn't even feel like manipulation. Someone compliments you, rewards you, or gives you recognition, and it seems harmless. But you noticed the patterns. You realized that both praise and punishment were often designed to steer your behavior, to test your limits, to keep you under someone else's influence. The same person who celebrated your victories could subtly remind you of your failures, and you began to understand that both were tools of control, not genuine reflection of your worth. Most people miss this because they only look at extremes, but you saw the entire spectrum, and it was revealing. You learned to watch the intention behind reactions, not just the reactions themselves. When praise arrives, is it unconditional, or is it tied to compliance? When punishment comes, is it corrective, or is it meant to create guilt and dependency? By reading the motivation, you realize that approval and disapproval were not opposites. They were part of the same mechanism, a way to direct your energy without having to openly control you. That awareness changed everything. Once you recognized this, you stopped chasing validation entirely. You stopped seeking approval from people whose recognition was transactional, and you stopped fearing their judgment when they tried to manipulate through criticism. You weren't immune to feedback, but you filtered it through understanding, not emotion. You separated truth from manipulation, and suddenly the world became less confusing and far less threatening. This insight also made you almost untouchable socially. People couldn't predict your reactions because you didn't respond based on their praise or punishment. You acted from your own understanding, your own code, your own priorities. That unpredictability unsettled them, and that's exactly the awe they feel. You weren't performing for anyone anymore, and the fact that you could operate independently of their emotional levers left them stunned. You saw clearly what most never notice. The tools people use to steer others often come disguised as care, attention, or approval. By seeing it, you stopped being manipulated. You didn't just survive the game, you learned to move in it on your own terms. Number 9. You understood that not everyone wants truth, they want confirmation. Early on, you realized something that most people refuse to see. Many of the people around you aren't looking for answers, they're looking for validation. They don't want clarity, they want reassurance. They don't want perspective, they want someone to echo what they already believe. That insight changes everything because it forces you to stop wasting energy explaining or convincing. You began to see conversations not as exchanges of information, but as mirrors revealing people's priorities, fears, and insecurities. You noticed how subtle it is. A question posed casually can reveal whether someone genuinely wants understanding or just affirmation. A suggestion that seems helpful often masks an attempt to make you conform to their comfort zone. You saw patterns repeated endlessly, people asking for guidance but rejecting anything that challenges their worldview. They weren't wrong to resist, but you understood the distinction. The truth isn't always welcome, and it rarely comes in the package people expect. Most people, unknowingly, are more committed to their illusions than to clarity. That realization gave you freedom. You stopped pouring your insight into a sieve that couldn't hold it. You stopped trying to convince people who were invested in a different narrative. You focused instead on applying your understanding where it mattered, to yourself and those who were genuinely capable of growth. You became strategic with your energy, selective with your attention, and precise with what you shared. The effect on others is striking. People who assumed they could influence or confuse you suddenly can't. They begin to question themselves, unsure whether you're ahead, indifferent, or untouchable. Your presence alone starts to destabilize their assumptions, and that's the awe they feel. You're not dramatic, you're not confrontational, yet your clarity forces them to confront their own limitations. By seeing this early, you avoided unnecessary conflict, manipulation, and disappointment. You realized the truth doesn't need permission to exist, and not everyone deserves access to it. That quiet understanding, that insight is precious and selective, separates you from the majority. You're not just awake, you're operating on a plane most people never even recognize. And that's why they wonder, often in disbelief, how you figured it all out without anyone teaching you. Number 10. You recognized envy disguised as concern. You've seen it countless times. People approaching you with advice, warnings, or critiques that feel almost like care. But something in their tone doesn't match the words. Most people accept it at face value because they want to believe in good intentions. You didn't. You learned to read the hidden layers behind those gestures. You noticed that some warnings weren't about keeping you safe. They were about keeping you small, predictable, and within someone else's comfort zone. You realized early that envy often masquerades as concern, and that insight completely changes the way you navigate relationships. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. The slight hesitation in their smile, the unnecessary intensity in their tone, the way they focus on limitations instead of possibilities, all signals that their intentions aren't as innocent as they claim. While others brush it off, you recognize it immediately. You've learned that people who try to cage your growth rarely admit it, and they rarely sound malicious. They cloak their jealousy in advice, fear, or caution, hoping you'll obey without questioning. But once you see the pattern, their concern loses its power entirely. This awareness made you strategic. You started filtering every interaction, every suggestion, every warning through a simple question. Does this serve me, or does it serve their insecurity? That one shift transformed the way you engage with the world. You stopped letting subtle envy dictate your decisions, stopped giving weight to words meant to manipulate, and started trusting your own judgment above all else. The result is startling to others. People who once assumed control through subtle intimidation or manipulation suddenly find that nothing they say sways you. Their frustration, hidden in polite warnings or friendly advice, becomes visible. They can't understand how you remain unaffected, calm, and decisive while they scramble to maintain influence. That's the awe they feel. By recognizing envy dressed as concern, you not only protect yourself, you gain clarity and freedom that most people never achieve. You operate on a level where manipulation loses its effect, where jealousy no longer intimidates, and where your growth becomes untouchable undeniable, and profoundly visible, without you ever needing to explain a single thing. Number 11. You understood that emotional reactions reveal hierarchy. You realized early on that people reveal more in their reactions than in their words. Anger, defensiveness, jealousy, or even over-the-top praise aren't just expressions of feeling. They're indicators of perceived power. When someone loses control over their emotions around you, it isn't random. It shows where they place you in their hierarchy, whether consciously or not. Most people live their lives reacting without realizing that every emotional outburst is a subtle signal of who they think holds authority. You didn't miss it. What makes this understanding so rare is the precision it requires. You learn to observe the micro-movements, the tone shifts, the sudden rigidity or flustered gestures, and to interpret them accurately. When someone tried to intimidate you, the panic beneath their words was telling. When someone tried to overpraise you, the insecurity in their smile betrayed them. Every reaction became data, not for judgment, not for revenge, but for understanding the real landscape of influence around you. Once you understood this, your interactions shifted. You stopped reacting emotionally yourself. You stopped giving energy to their attempts to assert control. Instead, you observed, measured, and adjusted your approach based on the truth revealed in their reactions. That's why people can't figure you out. They expect a fight, a response, a vulnerability. But you've already decoded the map of their hierarchy and moved accordingly, silently commanding respect without having to demand it. This insight also gave you power without effort. You didn't have to confront anyone or declare dominance. Your calm, deliberate actions and presence communicated your own placement in the hierarchy far more effectively than words ever could. Others instinctively felt the shift, often before they consciously understood it themselves. That mix of confusion, admiration, and subtle fear is what makes them stare in awe, wondering how you always seem one step ahead. By seeing hierarchy in emotional reactions, you didn't just navigate relationships, you became untouchable within them. You operate in a space where power is visible but untouchable, influence is felt but unexplained, and your position remains unchallenged, leaving others scrambling to understand how you always seem to know exactly what's happening beneath the surface. Number 12. You stopped mistaking endurance for destiny. Most people grow up believing that surviving hardship automatically means they're on the right path. They equate endurance with purpose, as if the ability to tolerate pain, manipulation, or dysfunction is proof that life intends them to stay there. You didn't fall for that. Early on, you realized that just because you could survive something didn't mean you were meant to accept it indefinitely. Endurance is a skill, a measure of strength, but it is not a destination, and confusing the two can trap people in cycles they were never meant to inhabit. You learn to separate survival from choice. Enduring toxic environments, unfair treatment, or systemic obstacles is often praised by society as resilience. People call it character building. But you noticed a quiet truth. Endurance becomes a cage when it's no longer serving your growth, when it is being exploited, or when it keeps you stuck in situations that drain rather than elevate you. The ability to bear pain is not a divine seal of approval. It's a tool, one you now wield consciously, rather than unconsciously obeying its weight. This realization transformed how you interact with the world. You started asking yourself, am I still here because this is necessary, or because it's habitual? You stopped romanticizing suffering. You stopped honoring struggle for its own sake. Instead, you began to move decisively, leaving situations that relied on your endurance without giving them the satisfaction of resistance. That quiet decision, invisible to most, is incredibly powerful. People around you notice, often without knowing why. The same individuals who assumed endurance would keep you in line are now baffled by your freedom. You are no longer a participant in their expectations. You've chosen a path that aligns with purpose rather than obligation. That choice shocks people because it defies their logic. They assume that surviving everything means you should remain, but you proved that true power lies in knowing when to walk away. By separating endurance from destiny, you reclaimed control over your life. Strength became a tool, not a tether. Survival became a platform, not a prison. And that's why people are in awe, because you survived without surrendering, and you moved forward without permission. Number 13. You learned that peace threatens people who thrive on friction. You discovered something early that most people never see. Peace is not neutral. Calmness, composure, and quiet clarity can unsettle people more than anger, confrontation, or chaos. You realized that some individuals don't measure strength by skill, intelligence, or insight. They measure it by their ability to provoke a reaction. Their sense of control, their self-worth, even their identity, relies on friction. And when you stop feeding it, when you refuse to react the way they expect, they lose their footing entirely. You noticed the patterns. The quieter you became in response to provocation, the louder they grew. The more composed you stayed, the more unsettled they became. They had counted on your engagement, your energy, your emotional response as fuel for their own momentum. When that fuel was cut off, they panicked, floundered, and sometimes lashed out irrationally. Your stillness exposed a truth they weren't ready to face. Influence and power don't require chaos. Clarity and control do. This insight changed how you navigate relationships and confront challenges. You stopped giving energy to every battle. You stopped proving yourself in every argument. You observed, maintained composure, and let outcomes unfold naturally. People who thrive on chaos couldn't predict you. They tried to unsettle you, but every attempt only highlighted their own instability. Your calm became a mirror, reflecting not your weakness, but their dependency on discord. The effect on others is immediate and profound. When you stop reacting, they start overthinking. They question their approach, their assumptions, their ability to influence you. They begin to realize that your presence alone, steady, unwavering, unshaken, is more powerful than any confrontation, manipulation, or argument they could manufacture. You became untouchable not through force, but through restraint. You learned that peace is not passive. It's active, strategic, and disruptive in a way most people cannot understand. And that's why awe follows you. People who thrived on friction are left scrambling to regain control, while you continue moving forward, calm, clear, and completely unshaken, leaving them both confused and impressed without saying a single word. Number 14. You trusted your conclusions even when you couldn't prove them yet. You reached a point where you realized that waiting for validation from the outside world is a trap. Most people hesitate because they need evidence, approval, or a green light from someone else before acting. You didn't. You learned to trust the quiet, undeniable certainty that comes from observing patterns, listening to intuition, and connecting the dots before anyone else even sees them. You acted on your conclusions not because they were obvious to others, but because deep down you knew they were true. That kind of confidence is rare, and it terrifies people who rely on consensus to guide them. What sets this apart is that your decisions weren't impulsive or reckless. You weighed, observed, and considered everything. But once your inner logic clicked, you moved. You didn't wait for permission, confirmation, or reassurance. That gave you a kind of authority that can't be bought or taught. People around you can't explain it, and that's exactly why they're in awe. You operate on a level that feels impossible to predict because you're guided by understanding rather than opinion. This approach also revealed who could keep up with you and who couldn't. People who needed evidence for everything struggled to comprehend how you could move so decisively. Some tried to challenge you, thinking you were reckless or naive, only to realize later that your instincts had already anticipated outcomes they hadn't even considered. That's when admiration mixes with confusion. They're trying to figure out how you always seem a step ahead, even when the world insists they're right. Trusting your conclusions gave you independence. You became untouchable to manipulation because no one could plant doubt where you had already seen the truth. You acted as your own authority, your own guide and your own proof. And that's why awe surrounds you now. People wonder not just what you know, but how you know it, and how you can act without needing anyone else to tell you it's okay. You don't just follow the path, you see the map before it's drawn, and you move with certainty they can't comprehend. Conclusion. At this point, it's impossible to ignore the full picture. You've seen the patterns before the explanations existed, separated comfort from truth, and noticed reactions before words were even spoken. You learned that guilt can be a weapon, that being misunderstood is a shield, and that doubt isn't always your own. It can be orchestrated by those who profit from it. You observed how respect is tied to access, how praise and punishment are often the same tool, and how envy frequently hides behind the guise of concern. You understood that people rarely seek truth. Most only seek confirmation. You read hierarchy in emotional reactions, recognized the difference between endurance and destiny, and realized that peace can destabilize those who thrive on chaos. Above all, you trusted your conclusions before anyone else could validate them, moving decisively while the world scrambled to catch up. All of these points aren't just observations. They're a blueprint for a life that refuses manipulation, thrives on clarity, and operates on a level most people cannot reach. The common thread running through everything is awareness. Not loud, not performative, not about proving yourself. True awareness sees, understands, and acts with precision. That's why people are in awe of you. They wonder how you figured things out, how you remain unshaken, how you always seem to know what's coming before it arrives. They're watching, analyzing, and sometimes panicking quietly, because your clarity exposes what they never allowed themselves to see. This is what sets you apart. You don't follow the crowd, you don't wait for permission, and you don't let someone else's expectations dictate your life. You operate on your own terms, moving silently but with impact, observing, decoding, and acting with authority. You've unlocked the kind of understanding that most only dream of, and that's why they're constantly in awe. If this resonates with you and you want to keep leveling up your awareness, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more insights that cut straight to the truth. Like this video if it gave you clarity, comment your thoughts or experiences below, and share it with someone who needs to see it. Every share spreads the awareness, and the more you understand, the further ahead you move. This isn't just content. It's a guide for the people who refuse to be ordinary. God bless you.